The United States Supreme Court has made a decision that they will hear President Trump's travel ban case. This just in. We're going to go right to CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid, who is in Washington. Paula, what does this mean?
This is incredibly significant because this has been the biggest legal controversy of President Trump's administration so far. Almost since the moment he signed this executive order, it has been tied up in litigation, and it has repeatedly been blocked. Both the first executive order and the second one have repeatedly been blocked by the courts. But here, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear arguments on this case. They have also lifted a lot of the injunction that currently blocks this policy. So it only took 4 justices to agree to hear the case in the fall. We know there are at least 4 conservative justices on this court. I'm still working my way through this opinion, but this is very significant because the White House believes that they had a pretty good shot at the Supreme Court of convincing the justices that this executive order was within the president's national security powers. So far, those who oppose the travel ban have prevailed in lower courts. They've been able to convince whole panels of judges that this could potentially discriminate based on religion, and that this executive order was not about national security, that it was the president making good on his promise to deliver a so-called Muslim ban. Meg, multiple times they would use the president's own statements, his tweets, things that his spokesman had said. They would use that to sort of prove their argument that this was indeed a Muslim ban. So far, 2 appellate courts have blocked it, but now the Supreme Court will agree to hear both sides in October. They'll hear arguments from both sides. And the White House, this was a best case scenario for the White House because they believe that they have the votes at the Supreme Court and they can convince them this was within the president's national security powers.
Yeah, I want to get your reaction in terms from the White House, but just to be clear, President Trump, he wanted to stop visits from Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen for 90 days so his administration can review the screening procedure for visa applicants from those countries. We all remember when he rolled this out just a week after taking office, it was complete gridlock across the nation at different airports. But as you mentioned, this is the best case scenario for the White House.
Absolutely. Again, this was only supposed to be a temporary policy. This is supposed to be in place for 90 days while the White House reviewed its vetting policies from certain countries that they believe have governments that you can't really trust what they say about people before you admit them into the United States. However, the Department of Justice lawyers have been asked during these oral arguments where they've been having to defend this policy in courts. They've been asked, well, were you able to improve your vetting? Have you even gotten to that? And Meg, the lawyers said, no, we've spent the whole time in court. We haven't had a chance to actually look at the policies, which was the purpose of this executive order. So clearly, when the fall comes around, the purpose of this executive order will have long passed that 90-day window. This is about something much bigger, right? This is about the extent to which the president is able to restrict immigration from certain countries where he and his administration, they believe that you can't trust these governments. They're unstable. They don't have a paperwork trail. We have to protect our country from certain people if you don't know who you're letting into your country. That is what the White House believes this executive order was all about. But many people who oppose it say no. If you take this policy in the context of president's statements on the campaign and now repeatedly as president, we saw he's had many tweets about this recently. If you take all of that context together, this is clearly a policy that discriminates against a specific religion.
All right, and Paula, stand by. We're going to check in with you in just a moment.